No words, no explanation, just that quiet, unremarkable moment most of us have had 10,000 times and never once stopped to think about. Your dog shifts slightly, leans into your hand, you smile without realizing it. And then the moment passes, like it always does, like it's nothing. But what if it's not nothing? What if, in that exact moment, your dog is doing something extraordinary, something you've been completely unaware of your entire life? What your dog really feels when you touch them. Let me paint you a picture. You come home after a long day. You drop your bag by the door, and before you've even taken off your shoes, your dog is there, tail moving, eyes bright, the whole body barely containing itself. You reach down, your hand finds the familiar place behind their ear, along their back, across their chest, and something in you loosens too. The commute fades. The frustration from that meeting dissolves. For just a second, everything is quiet. Most people write that off as the simple pleasure of having a dog. A cute perk, a nice bonus. But what's actually happening in that moment is far more complex, far more ancient, and honestly, far more beautiful than most of us ever realize. Because your dog isn't just enjoying being touched, they are reading you. The analysis. The moment your hand makes contact with your dog's body, their brain launches into a full, real-time evaluation. And I mean, full. The speed of your hand as it approached, were you reaching quickly or slowly? The weight of your touch firm and intentional, or light and distracted? The rhythm of your stroke steady and consistent, or erratic and rushed? Then there's the stuff you probably never thought about. The angle of your body, whether you're leaning over them, which in dog language is a posture that signals dominance or threat, or whether you're beside them, open, relaxed. The pace of your breathing. Dogs are extraordinarily sensitive to respiratory patterns. Slow, even breaths signal calm. Short, shallow breaths signal stress. Your dog notices the difference even when you don't. And here's the one that gets people. Your scent. When humans experience anxiety, our bodies release stress hormones that chemically alter the composition of our sweat. It's subtle, almost imperceptible to us. But to your dog's nose, which is somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000 times more sensitive than yours, it's an open book. You cannot hide how you feel from your dog. All of these signals get absorbed and processed in the span of a heartbeat. And based on that analysis, your dog is drawing conclusions. Is this person calm? Is this environment safe? Is this moment one I want to be in? To your dog, petting isn't just physical contact. It's information. The tolerance misconception. Now, here's the part where most people get it wrong. The assumption is simple. If my dog lets me pet them, they must enjoy it. They'd move away if they didn't, right? It's a reasonable thought. But canine psychology is more layered than that. Dogs are deeply social animals. They evolved over thousands of years to live in structured groups with other dogs, and eventually, with us. And one of the unspoken rules of group living is tolerance. The ability to accept physical closeness, even when you'd rather have space, in order to maintain social harmony. Dogs carry that instinct with them, which means that sometimes more often than most owners realize, dogs accept petting not because they're enjoying it in that moment, but because they've simply learned to live with it. Think of it like this. Have you ever sat through a long, slightly too tight hug from a relative you love but don't necessarily want pressing against you for 30 seconds? You didn't pull away. You didn't make a scene. You tolerated it because the relationship matters more than the discomfort. Your dog does the same thing, regularly, and we almost never notice. The telltale sign is usually something small. A dog that was leaning into your hand a moment ago subtly shifts their weight. Their eyes drift sideways instead of staying soft and half closed. Their jaw tightens just barely, and then they stand up, walk a few steps away, and lie down somewhere else. People almost always misread this as the dog being distracted or bored. But in reality, the dog just ended the interaction because it was no longer comfortable. They weren't being rude, they were being honest. And the difference between a dog tolerating your touch and a dog genuinely relaxing into it is something worth learning to see. What real comfort looks like. So, what does it look like when a dog truly feels safe? The body is the tell. A dog in genuine comfort doesn't hold themselves upright. They melt. The muscles along the spine soften. The tail movement, if there is any, becomes slower and looser, less like a flag, and more like a pendulum winding down. The eyes go half-lidded. The ears relax from their alert position. Some dogs make a sound, a low, rumbling exhale that's not quite a sigh and not quite a groan, but something in between. If you've heard it, you know exactly what I mean. It's one of the most satisfying sounds in the world. And some dogs, if you find exactly the right spot just behind the ear, or at the base of the tail, or along the chest, will lean into your hand with their full body weight, not just tolerating the contact, seeking it, requesting more. That lean is the gold standard. That's your dog saying, with their whole body, "Don't stop." The chemistry of touch. Now, let's get into what's happening beneath the surface, because this is where it gets genuinely extraordinary. When you pet your dog slowly and calmly, their brain begins releasing oxytocin. You've probably heard it called the bonding hormone or the love hormone. It's the same neurochemical that surges in a mother when she holds her newborn for the first time. It's the same hormone that floods the brain during deep connection between humans. And it's flowing through your dog's system every time you stroke their fur in the right way. But here's the finding that still stops me cold when I think about it. In 2015, a researcher named Maho Nagasawa and her team published a study that fundamentally changed how scientists understand the human-dog bond. What they discovered was this: when dogs and their owners interact calmly and closely, oxytocin levels rise in both of them simultaneously. Not just in the dog, in the human too. The same mechanism that bonds a parent to their child, one of the most powerful neurological connections in the animal kingdom, is also operating between you and your dog. Every time you sit quietly together, every time your hand finds their fur, every time they lean into you, you're not just calming your dog is calming you, and your calm is calming them further. It becomes a loop, a feedback cycle of mutual neurochemical reinforcement that deepens every single time it happens. And oxytocin isn't the only player. Gentle, consistent physical contact also increases serotonin in dogs, the neurotransmitter most closely associated with emotional stability and a sense of well-being. At the same time, stress-related hormones measurably decrease. This is why you see a dog visibly transform during a slow, quiet petting session. The panting slows, the restless energy drains away. The muscles that were held just slightly too tight finally let go. It looks like your dog is just enjoying a nice feeling. What's actually happening is that you are literally, biologically, shifting their neurological state. The map of trust. Not all parts of the body are equal in this equation, and understanding where dogs prefer to be touched tells you something profound about how they experience safety. The chest, the shoulders, the sides of the neck, the base of the ears, in the right dog. These are the zones most dogs accept readily, and there's a reason for it. These areas aren't particularly vulnerable. They don't guard anything vital. Touching them doesn't trigger the ancient alarm systems that evolution built into every dog. But the top of the head is different. Most dogs, even ones that are perfectly confident and well socialized, have a complicated relationship with being patted on top of the head. And yet, it's almost universally the first thing strangers do when they meet a dog. The hand comes down from above, which is automatically a slightly threatening direction and lands on one of the most instinctively protected parts of the body. The dog usually tolerates it. But watch their face. Watch the subtle tension around the eyes. Watch how quickly they pull back once the hand lifts. The paws are another protected zone. So is the tail. These aren't arbitrary preferences. They're rooted deep in the survival logic dogs inherited from their ancestors. Paws are for running. The tail is for balance and communication. Instinct says, guard these. So when a dog allows someone to handle their paws without flinching when they let someone cup their face or rest a hand on their tail, that's not neutral. That's not, "Oh, my dog is well trained." That's a declaration. I trust you enough to let you near the parts I normally protect. Every dog that holds still while you trim their nails, or tucks their paws into your lap, or lets you examine their ears without tensing, that dog has decided, through 100 accumulated experiences, that you are safe, that you won't exploit that vulnerability. That's one of the quietest and most profound things a dog can tell you. Touch as language. We often think of communication with our dogs as something that flows in one direction. We speak, they interpret. We command, they respond. But physical touch works differently. Touch is a conversation, and your dog is speaking back to you through it constantly. The way a dog nudges your hand with their nose isn't random. It's a request, a very specific, deliberate request for contact. They could have come and sat near you. They could have rested their chin on your knee, but instead, they found your hand and pushed against it. And what they were saying was, "Touch me, right now, like this." When a dog presses their entire body against your leg, they're not just physically positioning themselves. They're making contact with as much of you as possible, which in dog terms is an act of deep affiliation, a way of saying, "I am with you." And when a dog leans their head into your chest and just stays there, they're doing something that, in the context of canine social behavior, is almost achingly vulnerable. They are presenting the most sensitive part of their body in the direction of another being and choosing not to move. That's not nothing. That's everything. Over months and years, these physical interactions become a language both of you speak without realizing it. Certain touches develop associations. A slow, long stroke down the back after a frightening sound means the danger has passed. A hand resting on the chest means, "I am here." A gentle squeeze of the scruff means, "You're okay." Your dog learns to read these signals the way you learn to read tone of voice. They don't need words. They have something older and in many ways more precise. What your dog knows about how you feel. Here's the part of this story that genuinely unsettles some people when they first hear it. Your dog knows when you're not okay. Not approximately, not vaguely, with a level of specificity that we're still trying to fully understand scientifically. We mentioned earlier that dogs can detect stress hormones in human sweat, but that's only the beginning. Studies have shown that dogs can distinguish between human facial expressions, happy versus fearful, for example, and actively respond differently to each. They can detect subtle changes in voice tone that correspond to emotional states. They read posture with an accuracy that would make most therapists envious. And here's the one that really stops people. There's evidence that dogs can detect physiological changes in humans that precede visible symptoms, elevated heart rate, subtle changes in skin conductance, shifts in hormone levels, sometimes before the human is even consciously aware of what they're feeling. This is why service dogs can alert their handlers to oncoming panic attacks. Why some dogs reliably seek out their owners before a seizure. Why your dog sometimes shows up at your side on a bad day without being called before you've cried, before you've said a word, before you've done anything that should signal distress to another creature. They already know. So when you reach down to pet your dog and you're carrying the weight of something heavy, grief or stress, or that particular exhaustion that doesn't have a name, your dog is not just feeling your hands. They're feeling the whole truth of how you are. And they're staying anyway. They're leaning in anyway. They're choosing to be close to you, in full knowledge of what you're carrying. Think about that for a moment. The accumulation. None of this happens in a single moment. The depth of what your dog feels when you touch them, the trust, the safety, the chemical bond, doesn't appear fully formed. It accumulates. It builds across hundreds of ordinary evenings on the couch. It builds in the seconds after a bath, when you towel them dry and they lean into the friction like it's the best thing that's ever happened to them. It builds in the quiet of early mornings when the house is still and your dog rests their chin on your foot and you reach down without even looking. Each of those moments is small, forgettable even, but the dog remembers. Not in the way we remember, not as a sequence of events filed away in narrative form. Dogs remember the way the body remembers, as associations, as states, as feelings attached to people and places and patterns of touch. Your hands become associated with safety. Your presence becomes associated with calm. And over time, over years of these quiet, unremarkable, extraordinary moments, the mere sight of you reaching toward them is enough to trigger the whole cascade. The oxytocin, the serotonin, the settling of the nervous system. You don't have to do anything dramatic. You don't have to earn this bond through some grand gesture. You earn it by showing up, again and again, and being gentle. So the next time you reach down to pet your dog and they lean in, and something in both of you gets a little quieter, know that something real is happening. Something ancient and chemical and mutual. Something your dog has been trusting you with, in complete silence, every single day. Your hand is sending a message their brain understands without language. You are safe here. I see you. I'm not going anywhere. And if you're very lucky, if you've shown up for them enough times, in enough small ways they already knew. If this changed how you see your dog even a little, share it with someone who loves theirs. The animals who trust us most deserve to be understood.